Behind all that anger, as they're talking to you, they're acknowledging the fact that in all these important stages in their life, you weren't there. And yes, it may be a viable explanation, but in the initial conversation, I'm going to tell you to just listen. Hi, I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. G.L. White Show, where we focus on building strong families and promoting healthy fatherhood. Healthy fatherhood is not an easy thing, especially if you've had a child and you've been disconnected from that child or you've not been involved with that child at all. Then the concept of reconnecting with that child is not an easy thing to do. Now, here in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm a member of an organization called the Black Man Lab, where we focus on creating a safe, sacred, and healthy space for Black men. Recently, we had a conversation about reconnecting with our children, and in that workshop, it got a little feisty. And here's the reason why. There were a lot of men who were really involved in all the work that they're doing in the community, all the work that they're doing in the various organizations. But when we began to talk to them about their own involvement with their own children, then something happened in the room. The emotions, the sound, and the intensity in the room began to change. Why? Because in that moment, although this was a safe, sacred, and healing place, we realized that the healing that needed to take place centered around some unfinished business that many of these men who were present were confronted with. Now, I have a motto which is very simple: start with myself, then the family, cover the block, onto the community. Any type of impact that you want to make in society, any type of change that you want to make, regardless of the organization that you belong with, start with yourself, then the family, cover the block, onto the community. Starting with myself means taking an inventory. Listen, you know where you fall short. You know what you've done. You know what you should have done as a father. You know that. You know, one of the most powerful things that you can do is to get in front of a mirror when no one else is around and confront yourself in some of the areas that you've fallen short on. So start with myself means recognizing that there's some changes or some things that I have done that it may have had an impact on my children or the generations of the community around us. So in the Black Man Lab conversation, we began to talk about father involvement. And we began to hear some men say, well, I left New York and my children are still there, or my children are in Miami and I moved from Miami. And I've even had some men say, well, I've remarried and they're grown. I let them do their thing. Here's a reality. And there's no nice way to put this, so I'm going to take off my therapist hat for a second and I'm going to put on my father involvement hat. Here's the reality. Your children, even though they may be adults, may take this position. You know what? I don't need to talk to my dad. I'm done. I'm talking about grown men who have not connected with their fathers. I don't need them. I've been doing very well in my life. It's not necessary. Well, here's the reality. When I talk to some of these men who take a position that they are not interested in reconnecting with their father, or they have no intention, there's nothing missing from their life, but when you talk to them about it, then it's an emotional issue that began to come forward. Why? Simply because there may be something that you need to resolve around that. Now, with these men, the challenge that I was giving them is that reality, that truth is going to come. At some point, the young man or the young woman, brother, is going to come. I don't care if you've not connected or communicated with the child since they were an infant. Now that the cub is a lion king, they're going to have a conversation and communication with you. So here's the reality. That first conversation may be very, very difficult. Why? Because you may want to take the position, I'm the father, I'm your father, you don't talk to me that way. But I'm going to tell you this right now. What needs to take place is that when that moment happens, brothers, you've got to allow for the space for that young man who, at whatever age it was that you departed from their life, whether it's 10 years old, 2 years old, or 2 months old, that emotional state they may find themselves in. So I'm telling you, when it's time to communicate, when it's time to have a conversation with you, I need you to put your seatbelt on, because they may need to go through the FU phase. They may need to get this mess up, and they may need to get it out. And I'm going to ask you, challenge you that when you get to that point, say nothing. Just receive it. Because if you try to provide explanations for why you're not present, I'm telling you, you're going to cause an emotional vocabulary. Receive it. Here's the reality. The truth is, some of the decisions that we make now that we're men, but we may have had these children, we were 19, 17, 16 years old, we have that level of a mindset. And so the person you are today is not the person you were at the time that child was conceived. But here is a little relief that I want to offer you. If they're coming to you, if they're talking to you, if you can get through the FU phase, if you can withstand the hurt and the buildup, and yes, if you can handle the fact that there's been only one narrative that they've had about you, the mama has not brainwashed them. Let me say that again. That is such a common explanation oftentimes that I hear people say, well, I can't talk to my son. I can't talk. Their mama got them all brainwashed. No, the truth of the matter is, if they've only gotten one story, then that's the story that they got to go with. If that's the only story. So now you're here. Now it's your turn. So I'm going to tell you, put the seatbelt on. Take a drink if you need to. Get yourself ready for them to get it up and to get it out. Because in the restoration recommendations, it begins with willingness. If they're willing to sit with you, if they're willing to talk with you, the willingness to have the communication is the first step toward restoration. Now, it may not feel like it. It may not feel like it because you may find yourself getting to that moment and I'm going to sit here and you're going to say, Dr. White, so you mean to tell me you want me to sit here and let her cuss me out? You mean to tell me, Mr. White, that you want me to sit here and allow him to tell me that I'm not this and I'm not that and I'm supposed to sit and be quiet? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Why? Because it starts with the willingness to have a communication, and then it becomes part of the healing process. Sometimes there are things that were within us that have been within us for so long, we have to get it up and we have to get it out. And sometimes that may mean moving to our emotional vocabulary. Behind all that anger, I need you to understand this, they're hurt. Behind all that anger, as they're talking to you, they're acknowledging the fact that in all these important stages in their life, you weren't there. And yes, it may be a viable explanation, but in the initial conversation, I'm going to tell you to just listen. There's a whole family tree because you have not been involved that has been disconnected. These are broken branches on the family tree. And so what I'm telling you is that in the phase that got to take place to be the arborist to begin to rebuild or to begin to strengthen that family tree, I'm saying for you to be prepared, to have the ground recultivated, to be prepared to listen, to have the conversation. What happens next is it may simply be, son, I'm sorry, daughter, I'm sorry. It may mean after you allow them to get it up, it may mean that you then began to provide your explanation. And I'm going to tell you, one of the most powerful and effective things that you can do is that accountability and that responsibility. There's some things you can say that even the person who is emotionally wounded may not be prepared to hear from you. The last thing someone who has a high degree of emotionality, the last thing that they expect to hear from someone that hostility is directed toward is for them to say, you know, I was wrong. I was a coward. I was afraid. I was irresponsible. I have really no excuse for not being present. And so that type of dialogue is a starting point. Remember, I'm only talking about the first session. You'll be surprised that if you stay persistent and you stay open, that you don't try to offer explanation. Well, the mama, she left, or if you don't try to offer the explanations and allow that daughter or to allow that son to bring forward and communicate, it is the initial steps toward development. It's the initial step towards the reunification. Now, I'm not saying that when this is all said and done, that it's going to be an Antoine Fisher from the movie Finding Fish, that all the family are going to come together and a reunification is going to take place. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that the whole family is going to be welcoming to you. But what I am saying is that if you open up that door, that you allow that communication, because the truth of the matter is you're connected for life. So, gentlemen, fathers, this is what I'm telling you. Don't give up. Own your part and begin the healing and the restoration process. This is not a comfortable conversation, but it's something that needs to take place. I need you to be honest with it. Even if you've treated their mother unfairly, own it. If you do that, then this is the journey toward rebuilding and strengthening the family tree. I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and this is my healing conversation around restoration.